Hello, all. Welcome to the Historical Blunders podcast, where we're going to learn some history and hopefully have a damn good time doing it. Today's topic is part one of a two-part series about witch hunts. I'm your host, Nate.
And Bobby Bouthé. No, my name is Jacob, and today's witch hunt topic is going to be medieval Europe's, and we're going to answer some important questions like why people were making cakes out of urine and feeding it to their dogs.
And stripping women naked and parading them around, so...
That's right. With that, let's go.
All right, and with that, today's topic is medieval witch hunts. Let's dive into it. Fat moment there in European history where a lot of people got killed for some really stupid reasons.
They loved killing their witches.
They did.
Yeah, I mean, comparison to next week's topic is Salem, right?
Yeah.
And this week's topic is medieval Europe. Medieval Europe had 40,000 people executed. In comparison to Salem's 19. So
Technically 25.
20. Oh, of course.
So 19 were actually executed, 25 total people died.
Perhaps we should talk about that next week.
But yeah, so estimated was 40,000 because back then they just didn't have the records to actually keep track of it all.
Yeah. I think it could be more, it could be less kind of thing.
Yeah.
But a lot, I mean, 40,000 anyways. That's
It's
a lot
still
of people.
a fuckload of people.
They just love doing it.
I mean, that was a 70-year period.
Yeah, I mean, when I first started looking into this, I was kind of like, how could this even happen? Like, it's hard for me to wrap my head around the why as to why this was running so rampant, and it would just burn through towns where, like, some towns would then only have like 2 women left after it would burn through the city.
Yeah, it turned into a sausage fest.
Yeah. It was like where I went to college.
Was there witch hunts there?
Maybe before, I don't know. But it's been studied, like witch hunts in general have been studied as like a great example for hysteria, and it's almost like it turns into like a pyramid scheme with how they were doing it.
Yeah, one person, next thing you know, 10 people, and then after that, 40 people.
Yeah, I mean, they would torture them and be like, give me 5 names. And usually people were like, oh, I don't really like to be tortured, so.
Yeah. Well, like, some of the accounts that I was reading, like, yeah, they'd torture the living shit out of these people, and they're like, is this person a witch? They're just like, fuck it. Yeah, they're a witch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, in general, it's like, I wanted to dive into the why it happened so I could understand myself how you could get to such a situation where it's almost like there was the perfect kindling and stuff set up for this fire that would burn through areas in a country.
Pun intended.
Right? Because they ended up actually burning. But it was the study of witchcraft and like the witch hunts that would happen was really interdisciplinary. Which was so
it's
like,
a big word.
Yeah, it's hard for me. But it had to do with like people practicing magic. It had elements of legal and law. It had just the normal phenomenon of hysteria in general. It had economics. It had religion, sex, and gender. Like all those reasons kind of had to go together to produce a situation where people started burning people.
Yeah,
a lot. And actually, prior to the 12th century, even the church had not recognized witchcraft as a real thing. It was thought of largely as a pagan tradition that was not real. It was just, malarkey kind of thing. And then for some reason, all of a sudden, and there's a couple of reasons why we'll get to, but it's just wild that like after a certain amount of time, the church was like, you know what? There's some witches out here. We better take care of this. This is getting out of hand, So
yeah, not that we're ruining everything. It's the witches' faults.
Yeah, like Because so in general, there was it was a terrible time to be alive in the medieval Europe,
Yeah.
right? I mean, what was going on was
Plagues.
plagues, the Black Death, right? And actually, they didn't know it, but the Little Ice Age is something that also occurred.
Hmm.
So for a couple hundred years there, the temperatures dropped far below where they had been, and it's known as the Little Ice Age, and is a huge generator for disease, but also famine was a very common thing.
Yeah, couldn't grow the food you needed.
Right. So what would happen is, and I love this thought, frost would come in, and frost was a big deal because if it destroyed crops, like, you know, people would starve, and it would ruin your harvest. But just the thought of a guy waking up in the morning, walking outside, and seeing frost, and being like, "I just about had it with these goddamn witches, man."
This damn witchcraft.
It's just a funny thought to me that
You know, I'm not going to be able to look at Frost anymore and not think, goddamn witches.
my wife's gonna be like, "Why are you looking at me funny?" Like,
Don't worry about it. Get rid of the frost.
what do you think I'm supposed to say with this frost outside? I saw you singing and dancing last night. No, so instead of like actually coming up with solutions for those difficult situations, they would blame witches instead, and
Yeah.
said we better take care of those witches. So I mean, there's also the problem of heresy, right? In general, the church was dividing back then, going, the Protestant church was breaking away
Protestant,
from the Catholic.
Catholic, Evangelical Church.
Yeah,
Crap, what was the other big one? It don't really matter, but
right.
uh, but yeah, with the division of the church, I mean, each had the general idea of belief and everything, but then they all just kind of had their own things. But back then, religion ran everything.
Yeah, it
And
was like the government.
yeah,
Right.
damn near. Like, I mean, basically, whatever the Pope said, they did.
Right.
And so, if you didn't really believe in that or did anything weird in their eyes, you were a witch. Damn it.
Yeah, and the Pope had sanctioned torture while investigating witchcraft at the time.
Yeah, which is
Whoops.
yeah insane.
Whoops.
Yeah,
Probably shouldn't have done that.
yeah.
Because that
I
was a
mean,
huge component of setting the stage. If they couldn't torture people, you wouldn't get names after names.
I know. Like, what would have happened if that? Like, none of this would have happened. Like, hey, are you a witch? No. Shit.
Yeah. Instead, it's just funny because so what they did was they took people, they tortured them for weeks.
Yeah.
And then they were like, how do you know they're a witch? Well, when I tortured them, they said they were a witch.
well, you know what? I didn't let them sleep for 9 days.
I got the proof right there.
They told me.
Yeah, I mean, there's your proof right there. I solved it. You're welcome. But it's not really the case. I mean, also the German states adopted the Criminalist Carolina in 1530, which gave the judge power to prosecute denied counsel. It gave the magistrate power to secret interrogation, which is torture, right? But most of Europe at the time had required jurors to persecute someone. Whereas if you didn't have to, then a judge could just do things as they saw fit.
Yep.
Which made it a lot easier to convict for witchcraft because, frankly, kind of seems like bullshit.
Yeah. A little bit.
Just a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah. So there's other components to this, like if because disease was rampant and people weren't well fed, if a midwife had a baby pass away, that happens in childbirth, especially with medieval medicine. They would blame the midwife, like, dude, that lady was putting hexes on my baby.
Bite this root, you'll be okay.
There's other things like Thomas Aquinas was a theologian, basically a monk in 1273. He's the guy who started publishing works about witchcraft and saying that demons and people working together was a real thing that we had to fight and prevent from being a problem.
You gotta stop them damn demons.
Dude.
Don't let the demons get you.
It's just wild. They're like, you know what? There's witches, man.
Like, I kind of wish I had like a time machine to go back and really fuck with them.
I don't think I think if you I don't think it's I don't think it's a good idea. I think I think it's easy to like romanticize about the medieval times and oh like there's knights in shining armor and
It was just a shit
castles.
full
No, it was cold. You had no food.
shit
Disease
everywhere.
was everywhere. Shit was everywhere. I mean, watch Monty Python. A perfect reenactment of the time. But it's easy to romanticize
Closest
it. But
movie we have for
yeah,
historical references.
I mean, just imagine waking up in the morning and like maybe you're sitting there with a Starbucks coffee, but like back then it was like, well, I haven't eaten in 2 days and my family's not fed. Hopefully we can scrounge around and find some food for
Corn
tomorrow.
ain't growing.
Yeah, the corn ain't growing because those goddamn witches.
Can't trust some damn witches.
That morning frost. There's gonna be a lot of memes about the frost. Just so everyone knows.
Yeah, heads up.
Yeah, in case you guys haven't seen it, we have a pretty active Facebook account, and I found out how to video edit and make memes. So
we're hoping to bring you guys some more content like
yeah,
that.
yep.
That's the plan.
Yeah, so you move along the line, and Heinrich Kramer in 1486 was an inquisitor and a churchman, and he wrote the Malleus Maleficarum, which was called the Hammer of Witches. And it was another one of those, hey, witches are real. I have an excerpt here. It says, one witch can do more harm than 1,000 common thieves. When we look into the nature of demonic power, we find it to be insatiable in its lust for destruction and chaos. And what's important about him was he was the Gutenberg printing press was being developed at that time.
So then it was able to mass produce.
Yeah.
Luckily, not everybody knew how to read.
Thank the good Lord.
No, because the good Lord's guys were the ones that knew how to read, and so they could basically just tell them everything and anything they wanted.
Yeah. I just the printing press was like the first social media back then.
Just got like, this Postman. Oh, it's the Bible.
It's an underrated tool if you could print something and in mass.
And it's insane of how complicated printing presses are.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that you could put out 1,000 books instead of having to handwrite them all, which probably sucked.
Yeah.
You know, means your info is getting out there.
Yeah.
Now I just make memes and put them on Facebook.
Oh, times have changed.
Things are nicer now.
I mean, we're recording a podcast for the masses.
That's right. My pants aren't even on right now.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, they are. That'd be weird.
That'd be very weird. So I'm in a tiny room with you.
Why are you taking your shirt off right now?
Don't worry about it. We're diving into witches. Gets me all hot and bothered.
I'm so glad I'm here. We didn't do a toast, by the way.
We did not do a toast.
Here's to those who wish us well, and the rest can go to hell.
Quite fitting for today. That was good.
We're so cute.
That was good. So yeah. So obviously, reading that little excerpt there from the book, clearly that man was a churchman because holy shit.
Yeah, I think like there's a lot of people.
I feel like 1,000 thieves would do a lot of damage.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting how much like energy they would put, and like high-ranking officials were like theologian, monks, studies of religion. You know, people who studied religion. It's just kind of weird.
Yeah,
that was such a focus back then.
I mean, we all go through those phases, you know.
Now it's like we just have politicians.
I think we should go back to the monks. They at least had cool haircuts.
Yeah. I don't know. The evidence says maybe that didn't work out so well.
We can start another witch hunt. Give us something to do on a Tuesday.
I've just about had it with these goddamn witches. You know?
All right, so we're going to move on to the next section.
What's the next section, Nate?
Witch identifiers. How do you find out who's a witch?
Yeah.
You look for that wart,
Yeah. I think actually it's just where you go around something bad happening.
basically. It's like, is there a female around here? My head hurts. Witch.
Goddamn witches.
But also they did uh uh prosecute a lot of men and as
Yeah.
witches too. Sorcerers.
Actually, like, it's sad, but even like children.
Yeah.
Like in the we'll talk about the trials of Trier, but in those trials it was like there was kids 2 to 5 that they would prosecute as witches. Like, what?
Yeah.
What the hell are you guys doing?
I mean, they were already a quarter through their lives. They're okay.
Dude, I don't get it. Like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
Crazy. Anyways, not to be a downer.
Yeah.
That's not a very happy topic. I know.
Not. But ways they'd identify witches is they'd focus on old single women with bad tempers. So the angry lady next door that really don't like it when you mow your yard at 7 a.m. Witch.
Yeah, so I was thinking about this, and when I first started looking into it, I'm like, were they just like the Karen thing now, where like the short-haired middle-aged woman that complains and wants to talk to the manager,
Who has a bad temper and a loose mouth?
Well, so my point is, like, was it just their extreme version of that? Like,
it was their way of dealing with the Karens.
Yeah, so to be fair, right? The Karen thing's terrible. It's not fair. I think if your name is Karen, you should not be afraid to go complain to management. Like, if someone has a fly in your food, you should be able to say, "Can I get like?" And it doesn't matter what my name is. Like,
yeah,
I have family members that are named Karen, and I would feel bad for them.
I know a lot of short-haired Karens who are very nice ladies.
Yeah, give them a break, guys.
I do think it is kind of funny though. Like you say, like, "Oh yeah, there's a fly in my food," and then they get mad at you.
Well, and back then, so I thought the version was like, "Oh, it's that one of those. Oh, let's burn them at the stake." Like, whoa, dude, okay. But reading into it more, obviously, there's more to it than that. But I don't know. They did seem to target older women that had bad tempers.
Well, what I think's funny is, like, you don't have to get married in today's society, and people are like, "Oh yeah, I understand." Back then, if you did not get married, they're like, "What's wrong with this person?" And so
I think there's still a little bit of that.
A little bit.
People aren't as nice as they should be
sometimes, but it's better than then.
Yeah, I mean, they're not torturing them.
Yes. And so back
progress.
then, if you were a single woman and you were older and clearly marriage age, they would be like, "What's wrong with them? Must be a witch."
My wife has never dressed up as a witch.
Mine has.
Oh, that's going to be the video this week.
Mine
She's
literally
listening to this like, no, it's not.
No, not happening.
I have a video about my wife being a pirate last week, if you guys haven't seen it. Anyways, so some of the identifiers, right? Another one was like the mole or wart.
Yeah.
Right, which is like kind of common
witches marks.
Yeah, kind of common thing today that you see, but actually the reason was that would be where the demon would like drink from them.
Yeah, the witch's teat.
The witch's teat.
Yes.
And that's like where its bonded demon would feed off of it, which is really a lot weirder than it should be.
Yeah. And like, I got this mole on my shoulder. Like, back in the day, they'd be like,
that's the first thing I thought when I saw that mole.
Yeah, they're probably like, "That's a fucking witch."
I thought the same thing. Like, the demon's sucking some milk out of there.
Thanks. But yeah, like, but the weird thing is, a lot of moles and everything don't really have feeling. And so they'd prick and poke them and be like, they're not really feeling any pain there.
Right.
That must be where the witch is.
Goddamn frost in the morning.
But yeah, supposedly these marks weren't always on their bodies, but when they signed their deal with the devil, their pact with the devil, is they'd appear, and that's the devil's mark, the witch's mark. Just that's where the witch's teat is. An extra nipple.
Extra nipple.
Gotta love that. But that was part of where in the intro, talking about stripping women down naked, is I felt like that was just their excuse to strip women. They're like, we gotta find this mole.
Not everyone thinks like you.
Yeah, I don't really think like that though. But still, like, I mean, they would drag them out in the middle of the street and be like, "This is a witch, see," and just start ripping her clothes off, and they're just like,
What
okay.
a wild time to be alive.
I know, right? You're just over there raking up some hay. Next thing you know, there's dude ripping off a chick's clothes in the middle of the street.
It's a witch. Like, is it a witch or
Or just horned
you just
up.
got a problem? Just horned up.
And that's another one of my theories about the witches.
People are just horny.
Is it was all these guys that were, because a lot of the accounts and everything, they're all like, oh, they were older women, but then like a lot of the famous ones were middle-aged or younger women.
Yeah.
That, just didn't want to marry these guys. And so it's like, were they just pissed that they got shut down?
She's the devil.
You're 16, you're ready to be married.
And if you don't want to, you're the devil.
No, I don't want to marry you, creepy old man.
Did they even have a choice in getting married back then?
Well, a lot of the time, this family would, like, fathers would just be like, here's my daughter, give me a pig.
Oh.
Yeah. Basically, I don't agree with it, but women were treated as property then.
Yeah. Right.
Basically, the husband owned you as soon as he married you, and then daughters were just owned by the father, and they would just pawn them off.
Just you talking about that makes you sound like a pig.
I know,
Just
I'm sorry,
you know.
guys. I apologize.
We're about to get canceled.
God, I hope not. Not yet.
Only took 14 episodes.
A lot longer than I thought I'd last. But
I'm surprised too.
But yeah, so they do the pricking and scratching tests, which allowed a lot of terrible human beings use retractable pins as witch hunters. So they'd sit there and stab them and be like, oh, see, they're not feeling nothing because the pin wouldn't go in. And so they'd be like, obviously they're a witch.
A little close-up magic of their own, some would say.
A little sleight of hand. Yeah. Assholes. And so
takes one to know one.
Sorry. But yeah, they'd do the pricking tests and everything. And then one of my favorite things, like, I've read about, was the swimming test.
Yeah.
So, you gotta strip them naked. You hog tie them and toss them in water.
They did strip them naked?
They stripped them naked.
I think they just loved that.
I that's why I said they're just horned up. And there's like, well, how can we get this girl naked?
It's a kind of a hobby of mine.
I hope not.
Not me. I'm not saying me. Oh shit! I guess I can't.
No, he's canceled.
It's the last episode.
So basically, they'd just find any body of water, like ponds, rivers, lakes, and drag these women there, hog tie them, and toss them in. Because supposedly, if you made a pact with the devil, your soul was light and useless, and so you'd float. So what happens if you sank?
So when they did it, you think they like threw him in and just like sat there for a second and looked at him like
they're kind of floating?
Or would they like let him like start drowning?
So,
and if so, how long would that take? like they're just like, what if they're a really good swimmer and they're just treading water and you're like,
that's why they're hogtied.
I know, but like, can't you still swim with a hog tie on?
No, you're literally arms behind your back tied to your ankles.
Yeah, never mind.
Yeah. And so, yes, some of them did survive, but a lot of them, because it was rivers, rushing water, did not survive because they're just like, is she going to float? Oh, shit.
Yeah, I think, wouldn't that be fun? So if they sink, they're not witches, right?
Yes.
And then, because the water wouldn't reject them.
Yes.
And they pull, so if they sank and they drowned anyways, and they pull them out?
So a lot of them had a rope tied around their waist so they could pull them out.
Right.
Yeah.
So they did that, but still sometimes people still drown.
Yes. I mean, it wasn't a lot, but it happens. And usually it was around rivers and stuff, just stuff with current that carried them away.
So how do you think that conversation went with like their family
So, we accused your daughter Mary of being a witch. Well,
Good news,
good
she's
news, she's
not.
not.
Bad
Bad
news,
news,
she's
she's
dead.
gone. Huh? Yeah, she floated away.
Yeah.
I mean, she didn't float. She just went away.
Very sorry for your loss.
Bye. Yeah, probably was very awkward. Another test they like to do was the prayer test.
Yep.
Yep, they'd have them recite the Lord's Prayer. And sadly, a lot of them did.
So,
but you had to say it perfectly.
Yeah, I was gonna say you had to say it really good,
and
also,
no hesitation.
Right.
But even when they did, they'd still be like, "Oh, it's the devil working against us, trying to fool us."
Yeah, and they would also do it in like a public setting.
Yeah,
which would make them nervous. Because I don't know, it's easy to talk in a room in your basement about podcast stuff, but if I was out in public, I'd have a little stutter and be like, "It's a witch! Burn him!
Burn him!
Strip him naked first." Do they do that with the guys too?
I don't know. They never say anything about the dudes. That's why I said they're just horned up men. Dudes are just like, yeah, it's a witch kill. And but honestly, they probably just went for the good looking dudes. They're like, hey, my wife is probably going to want him.
I mean, they did men too. I mean, like for witchcraft.
They
prosecuted men too.
Yes, but no accounts have I found of them like doing the swim test, stripping them naked.
Let's be honest. No one wants to see a naked guy in the street.
No one does. No one wants to see a dick.
Especially not an old guy. Ugh.
It didn't. I don't know how old they were.
We're just gonna hang on that.
All right. So another test they did was the touch test.
Yeah. So the touch test was when someone would be having like a stroke or a seizure and they're kind of having a fit, right?
Or they was people that were conspiring against the witch.
Huh?
Or it was people that were conspiring against the witch. It wasn't just people having strokes and shit.
Well, so say someone's having a stroke, they would bring over people that they would be accusing of the witch to touch them, and whoever touched them and then they stopped seizing or having a fit, they'd be like, that's the witch.
Yeah.
Which it's kind of like hot potato of the witch trials. Like your hand, all right, it's your hand. I don't want to put my hand there. You need to put your hand there. They're still freaking out. You do it quick. You like, your turn next.
So there's even a couple instances
of like this. Torture musical chairs.
Basically. But so like even there's kids, having these fits, having these behaviors, just being unruly kids, and they're like, oh, it must be a witch. And they're like, yeah, it's a witch, blah, blah, blah. They'd bring someone over and touch them, and they'd be like, oh, they're fine now. They're a good kid. That's the witch.
Yeah.
But there was, where the hell was it? I think it's this one, Rose Colander, in England, were charged. There's two women charged, Rose Colander and Amy Denny, were charged with bewitching young girls. These young girls' fists were just clenched. Couldn't unclench them. And so they were going to do the touch test, but to ensure that these kids were telling the truth, they put blindfolds on them so you couldn't see who was touching you, and they just had a bunch of people touch. Well, people, like, they would let go.
Yeah.
From other people, not the accused. And yet they're still like, it's okay. We'll
close enough.
Yeah.
Burn them!
It was within the last 5 people that touched them, which... And
I gotta say, if it was me and they did that test and like the accused had touched them and they stopped, I'd be slightly convinced too. Like, oh shit, they're blindfolded.
Yeah,
this is real.
Yeah. So these girls faked it. Judge still didn't want to do it, and then Colander and Denny were hung still.
Yeah. Nothing like a good hanging.
Nothing like a good hanging. And we're gonna let you talk about
witch cakes.
Yep, good old fashioned witch cakes.
Oh man,
we should start a company.
I
call
thought
it
this
Witch
was
Cakes.
Fake, but they would have, if there was a victim of a witch, they would have that victim pee, and they would make cake out of it, right? As you know, I don't know who first pitched this idea, and then they would feed it to the supposed witch's pet. So that the pet would then give up the witch's name. Which
Yeah, it was their familiar.
did that ever work? Like,
I want to know one case of that actually working.
you just got to think back then how cold it was and famine and disease. Like, it's an excuse for them to just be so stupid.
It's so stupid.
So stupid. I mean, like, it's probably hard when like you don't know when your next meal is. Like, you're constantly operating in fear and being scared. Like, that must have been it that just helped
yeah,
propagate stupidity. Because man, they
did so
like,
much stupid shit.
who wanted to do the witch cake thing? It was like, this is gonna work, and we're just gonna keep doing it until it does.
I would like to know the idea behind that. I want to know who
was the
thought
guy?
of that. Yeah, there was one weird guy that just was like, let me make a pea cake and feed it to her dog.
Sometimes dumb people get in too high a power.
Yeah. And that's when is when piss cakes come out.
And people are like, oh yeah, well we should pee and make a cake with it. That's a good idea.
And I think
we're lucky that you're our leader. Ugh.
I think this is a perfect segue into a word from our sponsor.
That's right.
Is something interfering with your happiness or preventing you from achieving your goals? Regardless if you have a clinical mental health issue like depression or anxiety, or if you're just a human who lives in a world who is going through a hard time, therapy can give you the tools to approach your life in a very different way. And that's why I'm excited to tell you about today's sponsor, BetterHelp. BetterHelp.com.
That's right, Nate. BetterHelp's mission is to make therapy more affordable and more accessible. And this is an important mission because finding a therapist can be hard, especially when you're limited to the options in your area. Yeah, I'm really glad we chose BetterHelp as a sponsor for this podcast because I've had people in my own life that have struggled with mental health and anxiety and depression. And therapy was something that definitely helped them overcome those struggles. And now they're in a much better place.
Yeah, I mean, I use BetterHelp, and so far, so good.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't really talking about you.
Oh.
BetterHelp is a platform that makes finding a therapist easier because it's online, it's remote, and by filling out a few questions, BetterHelp can match you to a professional therapist in as little as a few days.
And sometimes faster. It only took a couple hours for me.
That's right. It's easy to sign up and get matched with a therapist. There's a link in our description. It's betterhelp.com/historicalblunderspod.
All one word.
That's right. Clicking that link helps support this channel, but it also gets you 10% off your first month of BetterHelp, so you can connect with a therapist and get the support that you need.
And because finding a therapist is a little like dating, if you don't really fit with that therapist, which is a common thing with therapy, you can easily switch to a new therapist at no additional cost, without stressing about insurance, who's in network, or anything like that.
So if you're struggling, consider online therapy with BetterHelp. Click the link in the description or visit betterhelp.com/historicalblunderspod.
And that's betterhelphelp.com. All right, welcome back from our little brief message. So our next section here, we're going to talk about the Trier witch trials.
Yeah, looking into the different witch trials that were going on, Trier has a lot of the different flavors and interesting tidbits.
All the flavors.
It's got some good stuff in it. It's got some good characters in it. So it's I'm kind of excited to talk about it. But this happened in the Holy Roman Empire in 1581 to 1593 in modern day Germany, because I don't know if you're a history buff, but they've always been the good guys. So there was 368 people executed in the city of Trier during that time frame.
Yeah. 1581 to 1593.
Yep.
12 years.
Yeah, so they said too that it easily could be more like 1,000 because what happened was it started out more in the countryside outside of the city.
Okay.
And those people were like more the peasants and stuff, and they wouldn't keep track of. They just liked a good burning, you know. They wouldn't really keep track of it so much, so it could be as high as 1,000. But in the city, where they recorded stuff better, it was more around 368 in there,
yeah.
Which is hilarious because the city population size at the time was 7,500 people, which means that 1 in 20 people in the city of Trier were executed as a witch.
That seems pretty high.
Yeah, it's probably like the same probability of you trying to fornicate with your cat tonight.
That's weird.
I thought about that all.
That was your joke. I was so
It's the
excited to
same
hear your
chance.
joke. And you go with
But
bestiality.
but it's crazy. I mean, that's like a high school class. Like one person in each one of your high school classes.
I mean,
Was
maybe
like,
our high school class.
yeah. Well, a lot of so 1 in 20 is a lot in general.
Yes.
It's like Jesus, that's a lot of people. And a lot of those towns, like I said, would have 2 people left. And the whole reason why, right, to start, Johann von Schonenberg was put into power by, the bishop of the area. He became the archbishop, and he was a fan of the Jesuits. He was
Jesuits.
the Jesuits, and he ran his whole thing on, I am going to get rid of 3 people. We're going to get rid of the Jews, classic Germany, the witches, and the Protestants.
Protestants pissed off a lot of people.
Well, the Catholic Church wasn't exactly nice.
Well, yeah.
There's a reason why they kind of rose up.
Yeah. But, shit. Oh, yeah. This is what I was going to bring up. So
I'm not saying the Protestants were good.
Yeah. No. No, since the Trier witch trials happened in the Holy Roman Empire, I have a statistic here.
Please.
So the Holy Roman Empire estimated had 50,000 trials of witches throughout their entirety. And they executed between 25,000 to 30,000 people total. They are the front runners.
Yep. They're the winners.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the Trier area, it was like 90 to 95% conviction rate. They had some real good tortures there.
I say that really worries me.
Yeah, so Johann, this dude was he even said he was addicted to the approval of the Jesuits, the monks.
Okay.
So he was doing this to impress them, which at the time, right, they were in charge of establishing order, and they were hugely politically influencers.
Okay.
Right? So he was very against it, and there was really 2 things that sparked. Like, there was all this kindling, right? But 2 things had to happen to really kick it off. Number 1, good old-fashioned weather, right? There was a hailstorm that destroyed crops. Some guy went outside, was like, I just about had it with these witches, man.
This damn frost. These ice balls.
It wasn't frost. It was a hailstorm. It was a really, really bad hailstorm for the area.
It had to have been a really bad one to destroy crops. That's insane.
Yeah. They said that it swept through the area. It killed a bunch of crops. It was like, well, now we're all going to starve again this winter.
Imagine back, we know what hail is now. Imagine medieval times and there's just giant ice balls falling from the sky. You're like, what did I do, God? I'm sorry.
No, but there was that, and then there's this goddamn 8-year-old kid, and a stupid fucking 8-year-old kid came forward with all these claims of he was abducted by witches, and they were forcing him to retract his faith, and he stood strong, and he wouldn't retract his faith. Good for him.
I promise. I love God.
I love Jesus. And then after that, he said that every night they would come and torment him and keep him from sleeping, which is kind of weird. Like, where's his parents to keep away these witches then? But the biggest thing that he did was he said he was aware of a witch plot to assassinate Johann von Schonenberg, who also says that he hates the witches. So you can imagine Johann being like, I hate witches. And then an 8-year-old kid being like, dude, they're out to get you. They're coming for you. And that was just all the reason he needed to really start this whole process of let's pyramid scheme torture these people and get some names. So in the area, they would burn the witches alive. Sometimes they would behead them first or strangle them. That was kind of like a means of mercy.
Yeah, that was their mercy kill.
That was the mercy. That was them being nice. But they would also charge them money too. So they would execute him, and they would charge a fee to the executed. So, so a big part of this was like there was a lot of money that started to get generated from people getting executed, not just by the executioner, but the lands would be seized by the government.
Yeah, if you were convicted of witchcraft, you'd lose your land, basically.
Yeah, your family goes homeless.
Yeah,
and
that was a big reason, I think, behind a lot of this stuff is
greed.
Yeah, I can't. It was. Oh, we'll talk about it later because we're gonna get. I'll tell you.
So they would do things. They would torture. The tools they would use were so thumb screws was pretty common. Sleep deprivation was pretty common. The strapado was pretty common. In case you don't know what the strapado, that means that
it's not a strap on.
It's not a strap on. That's not that fun. You tie someone's hands behind their back, and then you pick up their whole body by their hands. That's now behind their back. So you can imagine your shoulders just getting like
obliterated,
like when you roll, you break off a chicken wing. Pretty much, it's pretty nasty stuff. So after that, the person would be like, "I'm a witch." Yeah. They'd be like, "I told you. Here's the proof right there.
Yeah,
I told you." So it became this like pyramid scheme where they would do that. Be like, "All right, I'm a witch." And they'd be like, "Yeah, well, who else is a witch? Give me 5 names, or we're gonna keep torturing you." They'd be like, I'll tell you 5 people that I don't like."
Yeah. Or just 5 people because I don't want to get tortured anymore.
I wonder if people would be really nice to each other. Because, like, dude, be nice to people because in case they get accused of being a witch.
That's what mothers told their kids as they were leaving the house. Be nice to people so they don't accuse you of being a witch.
Like, I keep a list. Be like, dude, I don't like you. You're on my top 5. I'm going to name you as a witch list.
Sounds oddly similar to a hit list there.
Yeah, it's a little,
it's a bit aggressive there.
Not that funny, I guess. Well, we're working on getting canceled, right?
Might as well at this point.
It started, like I said, it mostly started in the outside of the city of Trier. Johann had profited greatly from the executions, like we talked about. The executioners were like multi-millionaires back in the day. They'd always have like maybe dressed in gold. They'd have super nice stuff. All those executions were resulting in food shortages. So what they did to fix that was execute more witches, at the time.
I feel like executions would help the food issue.
Yeah, but eventually, they burned through the countryside. Where do you get your food?
I guess.
Countryside.
Yeah.
Can't grow any food in the streets.
What happened to that cornfield? We had to burn a witch. Oh, okay.
So, and then you start getting into some of the characters, right? So the first guy is Dietrich Flade. And Dietrich Flade was a politician type person. He was a chief judge who was elected to mainly persecute witches because he was known to be good against that. So he was the highest ranking official that would speak out against witches eventually. He started opposing the witch hunts. He started having leniency towards a lot of the accusations. He wouldn't recommend them being burned at the stake.
We had a critical thinker?
Yeah, he started to be like, "Hey guys, I don't know if this is such a good idea." So
we have 2 girls left. Can we stop?
So logically, the only thing that he could do back then was then prosecute him as a witch and then execute him in 1589.
I wish we had you had the date of when he got elected to when they executed.
Whoops. So yeah, he had escaped once he found out they were going to start accusing him of witchcraft. Basically, just because he was being nice to the witches when they were prosecuted, he wouldn't recommend execution a lot. And for 9 days, he was on the run, and he was with like this group of knights who were traveling somewhere because he thought that would be safe. He was with knights, and then they found out that he was accused of witchcraft. They're like, "I ain't gonna have no goddamn witch in my company," and they dragged him all the way back to Trier. And then he was imprisoned, tortured, executed. The typical conviction to torture time frame, conviction to execution was only 20 days.
Seems awfully fast.
They were super efficient.
But I mean, also
Classic
if you
Germany. Classic Germany.
but also if you didn't have a lot of food, I feel like it's like, well, we're not going to waste it on someone who's going to get put to death.
Yeah.
We'd rather hang them than make an example of them, but other than let them rot.
Yeah. So you think about it, you got this judge, and he's taking it easy on witches, speaking out against witches, gets executed as a witch. The other judges, for some reason after that time, didn't want to prosecute witches leniently anymore. So after that time, it really started to pick up pace because no one wanted to challenge Johann von Schnonnenberg and his righteous rally, you know.
I name my next kid Johann.
So that's kind of wild. He was one of the highest ranking officials ever in medieval Europe to be executed as a witch.
That's pretty crazy.
Yes. So another big whoopsie that really started to let things run rampant. Then later there was another theologian monk that was Cornelius Luce, and he also opposed witchcraft prosecution. He wrote a letter, gave a speech against the witch trials, and actually just the reality of witchcraft. Like, he challenged not just should we be prosecuting them and executing them. He challenged and said, I don't think witchcraft is real at all. I think this is just bullshit. And he was a Jesuit, so he was a very well respected
higher up.
Yeah, and he was too high up to be executed as a witch, I think. So what they did was he started printing off his speech that he had and his points of I don't think witchcraft is real at all. He was starting to print off this and distribute it, and in the process of printing, they found him, they charged him. They took away his books. They burned all of his printings, and they imprisoned him. And for a couple of years, he was in prison. And eventually, he came out and had to recant all of his stuff. And then he recanted. Then they shipped him off to Italy. And basically, he was under watch by a inquisitor that entire time. And then he only lived for another year, and then he died of disease.
Oh, that sucks.
So he didn't really. He spoke out against it, and then he had to recant, and then he died. And I think it started to persuade some of the mass about it. But eventually what happened was, like, the economical sense of what was going on with that amount of witch hunts going on and people being executed, like, the money started to run out. Like, we're like, we need people in the countryside to farm, or we're all going to die.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much how it ended. It wasn't even like someone came and was like, what the hell are you guys doing? Stop that. Bad. No. It was just like, well, we can't afford to do this anymore. There's no more money. And that's what ended the Trier witch trials.
Gotta love that.
A lot of intelligence back then.
Lots of intelligence, and we're about to deal with some more. So, more statistics. British Isles, Great Britain, Scotland, Ireland, all that area. They supposedly tried 5,000 trials-ish and executed between 1,500 and 2,000.
That's a lot of people.
I mean, compared to the numbers-wise, it's still 40% of your trials you you executed. But we're going to talk about someone by request.
Call out to Jared.
Thanks for the support, buddy. Really appreciate it. Isabel Gowdy, also known as the Queen of the Scottish Witches. So, little prerequisite to
the William Wallace of witches, some would say.
No, do you call William Wallace a queen? Yes, the queen.
I guess if you want to.
If you really wanted to. So King James VI he started in Scotland. Eventually, after Queen Elizabeth I died, he took power in over England and all that, and he was really hell bent on killing witches. For some reason, he always thought witches were coming after him and his teenage Danish bride.
What a hero.
Yeah, what a hero. And so he prosecuted a lot of witches, a lot of shit. Uh, in uh, Shakespeare, Macbeth, Scottish witches in the beginning of the story.
I have never like read or seen Macbeth.
I thought we had to do it in high school. You were probably in smarter classes than I
I
was.
probably spark noted that.
So in what I remember in the story of Macbeth, the beginning starts off with witches, and it was kind of Shakespeare's ode to, like,
History.
well, he was around the same time of James the Sixth. It was like, so like you've heard the King James Bible.
Yeah. Yep.
That's his
Same guy.
version. Yep. He was terrified of witches, so that was just kind of Shakespeare's nod at him, like, here you go, man. Witches are evil. Haha, don't kill me. And
I'm cool, trust me.
And so the whole British Isles area was just kind of hell bent on killing witches. And this Isabel Gowdy was a Scottish woman who confessed to witchcraft. Oh, this is going to be some fun names to say. At Aldern, near Nairn.
You okay?
Yeah, I don't. It sounds like it's Scottish shit, and I'm Scottish. That's the sad part. I should be able to say this shit.
I believe it means an old wooden ship.
A whale's vagina, and
no, that's San Diego, man.
San Diego.
That's what San Diego means.
And so witchcraft just kind of like exploded everywhere in Europe, and this was towards the tail end of it. And I think this might have kind of helped people kind of realize how stupid everybody was being. So she was accused of being a witch, tortured, but not really like torture, just sleep deprived.
Is that right?
Yeah, she wasn't like physically harmed really. But over a 6-week period, she had 4 detailed confessions.
So how long was she sleep deprived?
I think it was like
she
9.
Said some crazy ass shit.
She did. I think it was like 9 days was the most in a row.
Fuck. Really?
I could not imagine not sleeping.
I think your brain's broken at that point.
Yeah. Well, to say what she said.
Pretty sure I went through that with my firstborn, or secondborn more.
So her first confession was just basically like, oh yes, I'm a witch. I met with the devil. I signed his pact.
I banged him.
Basically, because that's all these horned up men. Oh, you're not banging me. You're obviously banging the devil. And that's, you dance with the devil. You sign the devil's pact. Women going out dancing naked in the woods. Clearly out there having sex with the devil.
Obviously.
And so that was her first confession. Her second confession was 2 weeks later on a very specific date, because they actually like have detailed confessions that are very hard to read, because I tried reading the written part.
This is where it gets weird with her, right?
Yeah.
She's got some really detailed stuff going on.
Yeah. So she expanded on the details about her coven and everything, providing the nicknames of its members and the spirits that they would talk to. She had her own servant spirit that would like named Reed Reaver and follow her around and help her. She had claimed to have the ability to transform into animals. And for some reason, the animal she chose was a rabbit or a hare. But she actually came up with a chant, she would say, to turn into a rabbit, in which she said to him and did not turn into a rabbit. But she would turn into a cat, a horse. But I actually have the chant, she said, for turning into a rabbit. It's I shall go into a hare with sorrow and such an amical care, and I shall go in the devil's name, while I'll come home again. To change back, she would say, hare, hare, God send thee care. I am in a hare's likeness now, but I shall be in a woman's likeness even now. I am not that creative. I couldn't imagine being sleep deprived and then coming up with this shit.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, maybe
I'd love to be in the room when she said it.
and then be like, is she? Oh, she's
Dude,
not.
she's actually a witch, man. So this is the thing with her, right? A lot of people. So I'll say modern day witches follow Isabel Gowdy a lot as the proof for witches being real, and some of the practices she had as like kind of validation, you know. Which you want to be a witch? Life's a garden. Dig it. Go ahead, be a witch. If you're listening to this and you think you're a witch, be a witch.
Be a witch. We support you.
Be the best witch there is. You know. Rock
Fucking show us some cool shit.
Just don't cast a spell on me. I'm not superstitious, but I'm a little stitious. You know?
I'm just a little bit stitious.
Anyways.
All right.
Sorry.
So her third confession, because after confessing that you made a pact with the devil, and then you given all these nicknames, you came up with a nickname for a spirit that helps you. You came up with these chants about turning into a rabbit. And they're still like, there's more. So now she comes up with that the devil hand makes elf arrows that these witches can just kind of like point and shoot them. What I was kind of thinking of was what's his face from
Zelda, when you swing the sword and you have full health and you shoot a thing.
Oh, I don't play Zelda games.
Yeah, me either.
Nerd. But no, Guardians of the Galaxy, the blue dude, Mandu, with his little arrow. Yeah. And
Mary Poppins.
Yeah, Mary Poppins.
I'm Mary Poppins, y'all.
So basically, yeah, there were no bows, you just kind of like flicked your thumb and these arrows shot, and obviously didn't do anything. But she claimed that even if they're wearing protective armor, she'd be able to kill them. And that she used spells to inflict illness and torment on Harry Forbes, who was a minister.
So when she's explaining this, what do you think the feeling in the room is? She's like, I can cast spells. I can kill you with my elf arrows out of my thumb. I think they were like, okay, stop the recorder.
Stop the recorder. Or I don't know who was really doing the interrogations.
Yeah, sure.
Like if it was like hardcore, like witches are real people, they probably had such hard nipples this entire time.
I knew it. I knew it all along.
Fucking everybody's telling me I'm crazy. This bitch can shoot arrows from her thumb.
No offense to the witch people that are listening, but when I hear this, I hear someone who's gone off the deep end. Sleep deprived, something broke in their brain. Well,
I mean,
it's weirdly detailed what she writes.
Yes.
Maybe was it twisted by someone?
Well, that's the thing too, is you have no real idea.
Right.
It's written down. There's no recordings.
Trying to convince everyone that witches are real.
Honestly, she could have just been fucking passed out in the fucking room, and the dude was just like, all right,
elf arrows.
What sounds scary? The devil has elf arrows.
No protection. That's a good one. No protection. You can't be guarded against these magic elf arrows.
But, yeah, so like during the elf arrows, she revealed names of people she killed. Names of people she was going to kill. And the fourth and final confession was on May 27th, 1662. And basically it was just like, yep. The previous three ones are true. Like nothing new, which is like cool. But because of all of this, 41 people were arrested.
Classic.
Yeah.
That's a flat pyramid.
Yeah. And what's crazy to me is they have all this documentation of her, like all these confessions and stuff. But they have no idea if she was actually eventually murdered or anything.
That's what I saw too.
Yeah.
That's wild. Like, if she was in Germany, she would have got executed.
So fast. Especially she's shooting elf arrows. But like, what to me, it was just kind of crazy. They're just like, well, okay, she's a witch, and then nothing
See you
else.
later. Thanks for your help.
We're not gonna write anything else.
I wonder about the 41 people she helped, didn't help out.
Like with her being like one of the like prominent ones, and like having all these detailed confessions, there's just really still not that much on her.
We should talk about too. I don't think we mentioned when you were tortured as a witch. Like the common thing is like, well, we're torture, and then if you say you're not a witch, we're still gonna kill you.
Yeah,
that actually wasn't the case. If you could stand the torture for weeks, they'd be like, well, she's not a witch. Go on your way.
All right, your kids are hungry.
It's like a super difficult test.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. I would think that they'd just kill him anyways, but they didn't.
Yeah, that was kind of a misconception too, is like basically if you were interrogated as a witch, you were gonna die. Like, yes, they still killed so many people, but yeah, they didn't just kill everybody.
I'm detracting from your Isabel Gowdy story. Sorry, Jared.
Yeah.
And Nate. Please continue.
All right. So with that, we have no idea what really happened. Historians are just said like, well, they tried her, convicted her as a witch, and probably hung her on a hill. So, bye, Isabel.
Yep. She probably died.
But we're gonna wrap things up here, around that hour mark.
Yeah, I just want to say too, if you guys enjoy the podcast, please leave a rating and review, and like us on Facebook, follow us, comment on stuff. We're gonna do a listener episode pretty soon here where we take a topic that's proposed by you guys, and we're gonna put a poll out on it, and maybe we'll vote on it ourselves, and we'll pick one of those topics and go through it. So far, we have a call out from Sarah and Grayson for Black Death and the great Egyptian time frame, ancient Egypt. So if you guys want something to talk about, or you got a comment or anything, please follow us, like us, review us, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, comment anything on any of the streaming sites. It does help us.
Yep.
It just bumps us up, so then it's easier for people to find us.
I'm just gonna keep posting stuff on Facebook,
and we're gonna be posting so much shit on Facebook.
So many memes coming.
So many memes. But we're not gonna finish the episode yet.
That's right.
Not done yet.
I just want to throw it in there.
Just want to plug it.
I want to plug it.
We're gonna talk about a couple things that, like just some like misconceptions of witches.
Yeah. Myths.
We're
gonna myth bust. That should be a show.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We should make that.
Idea for sure.
I mean, I haven't been watching it all week. It's on Max.
What are you talking
about? Nothing. All right, so
you can hear the ice in your Yeti.
I know, that's why I love it. All right,
at the bottom of my half bottle drink. Oh man. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
You're not sleeping on my couch.
No, I'm good.
All right. Did witches wear pointy hats?
So just so everyone knows, I have not. I don't know what he's talking about right now. So
yeah, this is just extra shit.
I am every listener right now. I would say no pointy hats.
Nope. So it was actually just brought in later, just in like just drawings and stuff in after everything all happened in the witch trials. But they actually, the good old anti-Semitism against Jews. Jews were forced to wear pointy hats under a decree in 1215 by Pope. That's a bad name, Pope Innocent III.
Doesn't sound.
I wonder what happened.
Oh, the irony.
Yeah, and so yeah, they had these peaked hats. It was the Jews, and then
man, they were so mean back then.
So mean. Yeah, they called them the Juden hats.
That just sounds like it's like high school, like junior high.
Oh yeah, it was basically like you're gonna stand out in this crowd.
Like even if that was a cool hat, like the fact that you have to wear it, that's just mean.
All right, a little bit.
What's the next one?
Did witches fly on broomsticks?
So, I mean, okay, is the question, did they fly on
Yes.
broomsticks? Like,
Did they really fly on broomsticks?
or were they accused of flying on broomsticks?
No, did they? Yeah, because they were accused, but did they?
I'm gonna say no.
In a way, they kind of did. So
You piss me off. So you make me want to punch. You make me want to kick a cat down a corridor.
That's rude. Don't do that. So a lot of witches practiced witchcraft, experimenting with herbs, potions, rituals, and shit like that. They used something called a mandrake plant, and mandrake contains scopolamine and atropamine, two alkaloids that cause a feeling of euphoria in low doses and hallucinations in higher doses. And so these rituals, often performed in the nude, these women would rub this potion they made or ointment all over their bodies, in their private areas and stuff, and would hallucinate and, go for a ride.
So when you ask, did they really ride on?
It would give them a floating sensation, and so that's what gave them, they're like, oh, they're flying on their broomsticks. Now they're just all horned up in there. The friction of the ointment coated staff, because they would actually use their broomsticks to.
Yeah,
because friction.
Is that why that's that?
Yes.
Oh, well, that's just dirty.
Me and my wife watched Hocus Pocus last night.
Such a good movie.
It's such a good movie.
The main character witch in that, I'm pretty sure is a real witch. Like, she was made for that role. And she's so great at it.
My favorite part in the movie is when their broomsticks get stolen and they have to grab new ones. And so, Winifred grabs the broom, Sarah grabs the mop, but Mary, the bigger one, grabs the vacuum, and they're all taken off, and she slaps it between her legs with it on, and she goes, woo! It gets me every time, especially after reading that. I'm like, bet she liked that.
Yeah, that's kind of nasty. But yeah, I see why now. Well, I've never thought about the broomstick thing like that. No.
Kind of ruins it a little bit.
It's like a children's like thing to see about witches.
No, they were just
like a cartoon with the witch and the broomstick. Now it's gonna be dirty for me forever.
Basically they just made herbal lube, put it on their broomstick, and then hump their broomstick.
Life's a garden.
It basically gave them their floating sensation.
So I think you need to reword your question next time, because the engineer in me would argue that my statement was correct.
They flew on their broomsticks.
They weren't flying. They had a floating sensation.
When do you think the last person convicted of witchcraft was?
Can we do like century?
Sure. You can do centuries, you can do a decade.
How about we do like a 50-year span?
All right, I'll give you a 50-year span.
A 20-year span?
20. All right, if you said 20, so you're going to run
20-year span.
I read it and I was like, hot damn.
I'm going to say 1680 to 1700.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Nope.
No.
This is the last person convicted, not executed.
Sure.
Of witchcraft. Last person convicted of witchcraft was in 1944.
What?
Yes. Helen Duncan was a medium, and she was convicted of fraudulent spiritual activity under Section 4 of the Witchcraft Act in 1735.
Hold on a second.
Yeah, she was in prison for 9 months.
Where?
I didn't see where, but yeah. So she was actually basically like, you're faking being a witch. So 9 months in jail.
Isn't that like every psychic ever?
Yes, I hope.
I mean, sorry to the psychics listening, but
if we have any psychics listening,
did you
know that was going to happen?
Give people your money back.
Did you know that was going to happen?
You should be.
Comment, please. I would like to interact with you.
Oh, don't say that.
So
bunch of 1-star reviews coming your way now.
5 stars, please.
You can't ask for 5 stars.
I can. They don't have to, but I can on whatever streaming service you use. So, what do you think the last person legally executed for witchcraft? What years do you think that happened?
I would say the same thing. I would say 1680 to 1700.
Close. 1727.
Well, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so
that's less surprising.
Yeah, doesn't say where. Just says that Janet Horn was her name. Horn and her daughter were imprisoned because their neighbor accused them of being witches. The daughter escaped, and
some morning frost in that area, was there?
Probably. And Horn was burned at the stake.
Ooh.
Yeah, rough one.
No strangulation or anything.
It just says burned at the stake.
Ooh,
yeah,
that's a rough one.
And in the book that I'm listening to, for next episode, they did talk about a witch that got she had ties with royals and stuff. They accused her of being a witch and they burned her at the stake, but they actually burned her alive.
Rough.
Yeah. But it was so they could she was basically the heir to like shit ton of land.
So there's some motive.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think in stories and stuff, you hear King James VI basically like, oh no, he was just terrified of witches. I think honestly it was just corrupt politicians.
I mean, that's the thing with Germany too.
Yeah.
Trier trials.
Yep.
It was a lot of
land,
a lot of money being generated from that, and then they got to the point where it's like, all right, we don't have anyone to farm the land anymore, so we need to fix this. So yeah, it's kind of one of those things, you know. It's weird that it happened. It's still kind of hard for me to wrap my head around
that it happened.
And people like
just wait for next week.
I just can't imagine.
It happened in America.
Yeah, I'm excited to learn more about that myself.
All right. We're gonna end on kind of not really a happy note, but a less disappointing note. Were witches green?
I mean, everyone was dirty back then. I'm gonna say yes. I'm gonna say yes. They were green
because obviously they stand out. No, witches weren't green. The green witch.
Don't be so mean about it.
Because you're wrong. But no, the Green Witch was actually created by MGM Studios for The Wizard of Oz.
Ah.
Because Wizard of Oz was the first movie in Technicolor.
Ah, that makes a lot of sense.
They wanted to use as much fucking color as they wanted. And they used green for the witch.
I feel like a fucking idiot now.
Yeah, you fucking idiot.
That's normal for me. I can operate in this area.
I can operate. Yeah, so I mean, just imagine just green people walking around back then and be like, I wonder.
Yeah, you know what? Now that I see it, I kind of feel stupid.
Yeah, idiot.
Yeah, it's not the first time this week.
Nope. All right. Well,
today.
Another plug for our socials. We do have Facebook, Instagram. We are on TikTok now.
TikTok.
Yep. Just search Historical Blunders Podcast. Look for our logo. And maybe soon a different logo.
Lots of memes and videos coming your way.
Lots of content coming. We are going to run with this shit.
I know how to make memes.
Yeah, I know. Trust me, I get so many every day.
Ready, set, go. Hey, Nate, can we post this?
I don't care. But all right. So I'm Nate.
I'm Bobby Buffet. Jacob.
Jacob. And thanks for listening. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yep, Salem coming up.